I set myself the challenge to watch every single episode of Doctor Who ever made, from 1963 right up until the modern era. So far we are this far through the 6th Doctor's era, and this far through the show overall. We're in season 22. This story begins in the sewers of London, where a couple of workers are killed by some unseen alien menace. What could it possibly be? This is a mistake that Doctor Who keeps making. I've lost track now of how many times a serial has built up some mysterious enemy with a hidden identity, and the reveal is always some big cliffhanger moment. But the serial is called something like Axe Returns of the Cybermen or Dentist's Appointment of the Daleks. Just once, I'd like to have them name a serial something like Revenge of the Weight Watchers and have me be caught off guard when the enemy is a Cyberman. Yes, it's no surprise that the monster in the sewers is a Cyberman. This story serves as a sequel to both the 10th Planet and Tomb of the Cybermen. The Cybermen have travelled back in time to the 1980s to try and avert the destruction of their home planet Mondas, which we saw in the 10th Planet. They're also managing their operation from the tomb on Telos, which we saw in Tomb of the Cybermen. At one point, the Cybermen take the Doctor and Peri to Telos as captives. Since Telos is very cold, they make a point to offer Peri some warmer clothing. You really need to rethink your outfit choices when even the Cybermen are telling you to put some clothes on. The Doctor and Peri visit Varos, the planet that proves that democracy is bad, because given the choice, people will always vote for extreme violence and death. The governor of Varos is pressured to keep up productivity by a combination of public voting, which could call for his death at any time, and Syl, Varos' chief business partner. Syl is sort of like if a toad and a used car salesman had a love child, and then that child was raised to laugh like a rusty door hinge. Highlights of this story include the Doctor dunking 2 men in acid and showing absolutely no remorse, and Peri becoming a bird. She got better. Highlights of this story do not include vengeance or any desire for vengeance, like it's not a revenge story at all. But it does take place on Varos, so points for that. In the 19th century, at the start of the Industrial Revolution, the Doctor must face off against not 1 but 2 renegade Time Lords. The Master has returned after we last saw him being burnt alive on the planet of fire. How did he survive? Don't worry about it. He's plotting to bring together the greatest minds alive, including George Stephenson, to advance human progress and use Earth as his base going forward. Meanwhile, the Rani, another renegade Time Lord, is harvesting brain chemicals from humans, leaving them unusually aggressive and leading to them attacking George Stephenson and his steam engine. This means for the first time in Doctor Who, an actual real-life historical figure is getting involved in a plot with aliens, which is kind of weird to think about. I hope this doesn't happen again once or twice a season. Remember when the Doctor was a lovable hobo? Remember when fan service meant a Scottish himbo in a kilt? Let's bring all that back and really contrast it with the current show. The 2nd Doctor and Jamie get news that a scientist called Dastari is experimenting with Scottish stereotypes. Jamie's all like, not without me or not, so they head there to stop it and get mixed up in a plot involving Sontarans and cannibals. The danger ripples forward in time to the 6th Doctor. Somehow. And he and Peri end up drawn into the whole thing as well, eventually having to rescue his past self from Dastari and his cohorts. Wait a second. Dastari. That's an anagram of AS Triad. Dastari is Susan! The villains of this piece infect the 2nd Doctor with alien DNA, which causes him to grow big bushy orange eyebrows, warts, and an insatiable hunger for meat. It also seems to affect the 6th Doctor, who at one point considers eating a cat. When he's not eating puss, when he's not considering eating a cat. The Sixth Doctor is confusing his personal pronouns. Further examples of how Doctor Who is going woke. Highlights of this story include the Doctor straight up murdering a guy with cyanide, and Peri calling the Doctor an asshole. Yeah, she mouthed it, but we all saw it. Carful is a world of autocratic rule, where laws are upheld by vicious robots, and any dissidents are tossed into an unstable time tunnel that drops you in Scotland. Clearly a fate worse than death. What have the Doctor Who writers got against Scotland? The ruler of this nightmare place is the Borad. But wait, that's not the real Borad. This is. Kill him. But wait, that's not the real Borad. He forgot to tell you he made a clone. The Borad is a disgusting monster of a man who becomes enamored of Peri's beauty and decides to keep her as his mate. His plot to gain even more total control of Carful than he already has is to provoke a group of sock puppets into wiping out the human population so that he can repopulate it with his and Peri's mutant babies. Luckily, the Doctor is able to stop him with the help of H.G. Wells. That's another historical figure. You're on thin ice, Doctor Who. Revelation of the Daleks revolves around Tranquil Repose, a funeral home planet where some sinister plot is going on behind the scenes. Gee, I wonder who could be behind it. This story sees the return of Davros, a man so hateful that he created beings of pure hate that kill indiscriminately and act as much like real-life Nazis as you can when you don't have legs to goose step with. But somehow Davros is not the most hateable person in this story. Jabel is the head embalmer at Tranquil Repose. His assistant, Tassimbeaker, is madly in love with him, and he spends the duration of this story being sarcastic and rude to her, egotistical, arrogant, generally unpleasant. When he's not kicking puppies, he's creeping on Peri because Peri is a magnet to these guys apparently. Luckily, he doesn't have too much time to creep on Peri because it takes Peri and the Doctor half the whole story just to get inside the funeral home. They just meander around outside while all the plot happens as far away from them as possible. The Doctor barely even affects the plot, in fact. He sees his own grave, realizes it's a fake, breaks into the funeral home to confront Davros, makes a few jokes about Davros's dismemberment, but then the Daleks capture Davros and take him off for a trial on Skaro. Imagine being put on trial by your own people. None of that for the Doctor though, as he and Peri are off to